What's up,
Hello,
guys?
everybody.
That's at RichSportsNews. This is your boy, Deshaun Richardson.
Your girl, Shamir Rich.
Hope everybody's doing swell. So we got my boy Nas with us today, man. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing good,
How
man.
about y'all?
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. I know the last time we spoke, there's little minor issues, so I'm sorry about that. I had to reschedule it. But everything's working now. Everything seems to be going pretty good now. So let's go ahead and get into it. Yeah, guys, Nas is into NASCAR. He does sim racing, and he's also trying to turn pro, right?
Of course.
Turn pro. All right, so give us a little backstory on that. How did you get into NASCAR?
So I got into NASCAR because ever since I was a little kid, I always was into cars, and my parents would get me diecast just like these. And then I'll turn on the TV and then I'll see these diecast cars in real size, real life versions going 200 miles an hour. And I'm like, whoa, this is actually real. Like, wow, I can't believe this. I just got hooked from the start. I love the red Budweiser number 8 car driven by Dale Earnhardt Jr. That became my childhood fast. If you won, I was on cloud 9. If you didn't win, I was pretty down about it.
So, like, speaking of Dale, he's your idol,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like, you spoke, you say you met him in person, like, just speak on that experience, man. Like, how was it?
So yeah, the NASCAR Hall of Fame, which is in Charlotte, has a display of all these race cars driven by Hall of Famers, really, really, really influential people in the sport and drivers. So Dale Earnhardt Jr. was given the task of picking the cars that were going to be on the new display, and he had a Q&A with the fans to talk about, what went into the selection of the cars. And I went to it. I skipped class. I'm a UNC Charlotte student. Put on my Dale Earnhardt Jr. jacket, put on my nationwide hat, and there you go. And
ACC.
Just graduated. Anyway, I appreciate it. So yeah, I put on my Dale stuff, and there was a whole TV crew, cameras everywhere. I'll see one of the NASCAR media guys walking by, Nate Ryan, a big time media guy in NASCAR. I'm like, holy yes, like, wow, like, this is for real. We're in line. So we get let in. I pick the seat right in front of Dale. All right, we make eye contact. He does this Q&A with I think Winston Kelly, which is like the guy. He's the top dog at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So like this is totally rad. The Q&A goes by pretty quick, and Dale Jr. goes to the side to do some media availability interviews and stuff. And the funny part is, we were told from the start, he will not sign autographs, he will not meet us, he won't talk to us. He's going in, going out. So I'm like, oh, come on, another year of this? Because the previous January of this, the previous year, same thing happened. Dale showed up, walked about 6 feet from me, never said a word because he had to go somewhere. Like, he wasn't like being he had to go somewhere. So funny part is he gets through with his interview. Instead of walking away, he turns around and starts signing autographs. I'm like, holy shit. Excuse my language. But yeah, I couldn't contain my happiness. And as he got closer and closer to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's no way. And we shook hands. There's a picture of me shaking his hand somewhere. We shook hands and we talked about iRacing. And he asked me where I'm from. I said I'm from Raleigh. Well, funny enough, he's filming a new TV show. He was filming a new TV show that went to old racetracks. And he was coming about 30 minutes from here. Unfortunately, we were in Charlotte and I had school, but he invited me to come all the way out here to accompany him. And I'm like, there's no way.
That's awesome.
This is my hero. I'm just a fan at the end of the day. Like, this is huge. And this is not the end of it. This is not the end of it. So yeah, we meet, take pictures. A couple of friends of mine met him. You know, that's great. I am getting ready to leave. Okay. I got in the NASCAR Hall of Fame simulator, did a couple laps, did a couple races, you know, in and out. Hey, I just met Dale Jr. Oh, that's cool. All right. I leave the place. I am almost getting on a lift. I'm on my phone trying to call this Lyft driver, trying to see where he's at because, you know, there's a whole bunch of cars in Charlotte, especially that time of and there's this guy named Brian that works at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. He comes bolting out the door and he tells me that, hey, someone wants to talk to you. Walk right back into place. They told me it's Dale. I was planning to go back to class.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, okay, at this point, F class.
Right.
Peter was in the skybox, the NASCAR Hall of Fame, wanting to talk to me, of all people. No way. I'm going up there. So he still had this interview to get done in the skybox. So we waited about like 20 minutes. In the meantime, I'm trying to like breathe. I'm trying not to fangirl.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. You know, I was trying not to lose my shit, you know?
Yeah.
I feel you, bro.
And yeah, we met, and again, the same day, and we talked about iRacing even more, and he talked about all the different steering wheels and stuff, how to make it affordable, and that conversation led to me getting my entire sim rig, steering wheel, pedals,
right. And I can see here that you're at your setup now, and we wanted to get into that. So, how long have you been sim racing?
So technically speaking, it's been 2 years.
Okay.
So I got into the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and it's through the NASCAR Hall of Fame. They have like 14 simulators. Well, if you want to include the practice simulators in the back, it's actually like 18. Actually 19 because there's a handicap one. So like they would have a car, a shell of a car or a real race car, put a computer, monitor, steering wheel pedals, all that stuff. Speakers in the back. On both sides of the car. So like there would be like 7 cars and like 4 extra sims in the back to practice. And it was insane. So I got in at the Hall of Fame on a buddy dance, and my friend Devin got me in. And funny enough, I didn't realize that Bobby Allison, a legend in NASCAR, was going to be there. And so I'm practicing in the simulator, getting acclimated. Never done this before, was pretty good at it already off the jump. I mean, still was kind of slow, but pretty good at it. Funny enough, there was a event, iRacing event, members only. I wasn't even a member, but they let me race for some reason, and I almost won that race. I met Bobby Nelson. It was insane. From that point on,
what was your place?
Racing. So I got like 4th or something like that, even though I had gotten wrecked out of a chance to win the race. Came back to 4th. It was insane.
But I mean, shit, that's still pretty good, man. 4th place. I probably came in last. You know what I'm saying? Probably. But that's good, man. Like, so that just motivated you to do sim racing more, and you know, because that's how you get to the top. You know, you gotta continue, right?
That's right.
And you mentioned, you know, how much it costs to get a rig and for all that. So explain. So what is your setup now? Like, so what's your steering wheel and what's your chair? You got the clutch. You know, kind of go into detail about that.
Yeah. So you get a rig. Well, you don't need a rig. A lot of people actually just use a desk, and they get a steering wheel that clamps to the desk. But for me, I simply got a rig. After paying my taxes, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna reward myself. So like I got my rig. This is an Ubuntu rig. Comes with a chair. Comes with a steering wheel plate. Comes with a monitor mount plate. Comes with a steering or pedal tray. All this stuff. A gearbox mount, all this crazy stuff. So I got all that stuff. I got the steering wheel, a Thrustmaster T300 RS GT edition. I have a T300 pedal set with the clutch. Have a Asus computer, and I also have a nice monitor, Asus monitor. I can see the box in the back there. So yeah, I have all this stuff, and I saved up quite a bit of money over time to get all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? The pandemic has hit. You know what? I'm gonna do this.
Right. Wow. So yeah, because I mean, I'm sure like quarantine, since it is sim racing, I'm pretty sure the lobbies were stacked or full of people. Right. And I also want to just get into that more. So explain exactly how does that, because I've heard of like truck simulations where like the 18-wheelers and all that, but this is more so like NASCAR on a track. And so is it just like real life in a way?
Oh yeah, it's as realistic as it gets. The first time I tried this, I spun out a couple times. It's like for real. Like the real life NASCAR drivers use this stuff to prepare for each race. They use the sim to predict, certain track characteristics. Some tracks are more realistic than others. Some cars are more realistic than others. But it is for real. Some people use virtual reality. It's insane.
So do you want the virtual reality? Like, would you like to use that?
No, it's not, I can't do it. Somebody that has the stomach to do it, they can do it. But for me, it's a no. I'll do it maybe at some point.
So, I mean, what are some disadvantages though? Because I mean, have you ever driven in an actual car that's on the track? So tell me, like, what is the disadvantage from, I guess, driving real life versus the simulation? And what are some advantages as well?
Yeah, well, I haven't driven a race car on track. I have gotten to race some go-karts and stuff. The disadvantage from sim racing to real life has got to be that sometimes the sim is a little bit unrealistic. There's some things that are in the sim to make things a little bit easier for the newer people. and sometimes the field of view is not very realistic. For me, I have a single monitor, so I don't get as realistic a view as some other people. And many people have just one monitor. So in real life, you have a much different field of view. So that can be a big disadvantage. In real life, there's a lot more variables that you have to worry about, like setups, the chassis setups, tires, so many more variables that sometimes in sim racing you don't have to worry about.
Say if you win, right? Like, what do you get, prizes, or like what do you get? You know, like what rewards do you get for coming in first or top 10, whatever?
And sim racing.
So we have a rating system, and based on how strong the field is, there's a points payout at the end of every race. So it definitely give you the most I rating you can possibly get. More likely you get the most rating you can possibly get. So if you're good enough to get to the top level, the payout for winning the championship at the top level of sim racing for NASCAR, it's about $100,000.
Damn, I might have to start doing it, man.
Yeah.
Shit, 100,000, bro. Hey, I hope you get to the top, man.
Shit.
Damn, 100,000, bro.
Shit.
You got a lot of work to do first.
Hey, I already know you grinding, man. You grinding. I know you grinding.
That's right.
But you know what? That's very interesting because, you know, the last time we spoke, we kind of dove into the African-American aspect of NASCAR. And you gave great insight into it. And, you know, dive into more of that. So are there any stipulations from being African-American in a predominantly white sport?
Of course. If you go back to 1963, Wendell Scott was NASCAR's only black driver, and he had actually won a race in Florida, and they couldn't declare him as the winner because they were afraid for this dude's safety. That's the reasoning behind it. They literally thought that they were going to lynch him for winning the race. So they had to invent scoring error to try to say that, well, he didn't really win the race. This guy did. And then they later on declared him the winner. And they didn't even give him the existing trophy. They gave him a smaller trophy. But the African American experience in motorsports hasn't been the best, but it hasn't been the worst. There are really good fans out there, but at the same time, there's a lot of toxicity. Bubba Wallace is our current African American driver. At the top level, he's out driving his equipment, in my opinion. But there was a garage door incident that many people feel like he was behind for some reason, and that's not true. He was just told about it, and there are a group of NASCAR fans that to this day still hammer him for it. They talk a bunch of S about him. They say he can't drive. They'll never look at him objectively. And I just feel like some of it is racially motivated. So, being American in a predominantly white sport, it's great. You can represent yourself. At the same time, there's to be left. I mean, there's a lot of work to do because there are a lot of fans that are spewing a lot of hate. Now, my experience personally has been actually really good, but the experiences I've seen other people have are not so good. I went Bristol, Tennessee, watching NASCAR All-Star race, and we were so happy when Bubba Wallace crashed. Cheering.
Wow.
That happened because you like the guy. That happens because you have certain feelings about the guy.
Right.
In many cases.
Wow, that's crazy.
We got work to do.
Yeah, that is crazy, man. Like, but it's good that, you're into NASCAR, man, because not too many African Americans are into it. Most of us are into basketball, football, stuff like that. But, I'm astounded, talk about NASCAR with you, man, because, that's good. You're really passionate about it. You're really passionate about it. I can tell you got a shirt on too. You're really passionate about it. That's good, man.
With you being an African American male, what would you tell an African American child who sees the sport, they want to do it? Like, what are some encouraging words you would give them?
This sport is yours too. You love NASCAR, you love racing, you belong in it. There are so many youth programs out here that are trying to get African Americans into the sport, not only into the sport, but into engineering, into science. There are a lot of important programs that are put in place. I didn't quite have growing up, but this is your opportunity. You belong. You will receive some hate from time to time, but there are some really good people, really accepting people. This is your sport too, so enjoy it.
Oh, that's awesome. And
trying to get other people involved, like, present time, but right now, like, you're trying to get other people involved, like fellow African Americans.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, so absolutely. So on social media, I'll post a lot about the sport. I'll post a lot of images of me at the venues that I've been to. I would post a lot about the SimRacing side of things, and I try to educate people and get info about the people in the sport who are African American, so people can see that this is not just a Southern white boy sport. This is a sport that includes everybody, and the people at the very top have tried to include African Americans, and they've put forth an initiative to get more people in the sport. So I feel like I've taken on that responsibility as a fan myself to try to get other African Americans. I primarily do that through social media.
And, I've always wondered too, how do they specify what kind of car should be on the track? Because, every NASCAR vehicle, they all kind of look alike. They look similar as far as, just
right.
the build, but I'm pretty sure like there's other specs that they do add to kind of help out the driver, that configure to the driver. But I mean, how come there aren't races to where there's like, as far as NASCAR goes, where they're not using vehicles that have that look? Or is that just what they're looking for? Is that just a stigma for NASCAR?
Yeah, so NASCAR over the years, they used to be stock. They started off as stock cars. So the cars right off the lot. They raced them right on the track. Race on Sunday, sell on Monday. That was the philosophy. But over time, unfortunately, the cars, yes, they were manipulated to race. But as time went on, these companies just made cars just for NASCAR. They had their own NASCAR program. And it got to the point where some of the race cars on track didn't even resemble the model that people drove. However, with the Gen 6 car that came out about 7 years ago, we've seen a little bit more resemblance to the car manufacturer. And with the next generation car coming out in 2 years, less than 2 years, the car should resemble the cars that you drive on the street a lot better. Not just the car, but even the tire, the wheel, it'll resemble what you normally drive.
Wow, that's good. And the accidents in NASCAR as well, because I know, like, I don't know, are you trying to kind of go further than the sim racing and to actually get on a physical track? Because I wanted to ask you,
if that's opportunity, there's an opportunity to race in real life because of sim racing. Oh, I'm all for it. I would be all over that deal.
Yeah. Like, do you care about the risk? Because I've seen so many accidents, when it comes to NASCAR. Does that scare you?
Not at all. The reason why I'm not afraid is because NASCAR's made so many safety innovations in the last 19 years. 2001 was the year that got NASCAR actually taken this serious. So the walls at these racetracks, they're designed to keep the driver safe, take the impact off the driver as much as possible. The cars are safer. There's a head and neck restraint required to make sure that your head doesn't snap forward when you crash. So I'm not very worried about the safety. If I were to ever race, I would be I'd be full throttle.
Sim racing. What is the biggest stipulation that you get versus, like, is there, I don't want to make it a big thing, but have you ever ran into someone who says, oh, what you're doing isn't real, or it has nothing to do with our sport? Are there some guys like that in NASCAR, in the industry?
Yeah, there are people who are like, well, this is a video game. Now, funny enough, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the guy that represents sim racing and has represented sim racing since the late 90s. And the thing is, no one really believed that what he did had any impact on how he raced or what he learned about a specific racetrack. Now, the funny thing is, there are certain drivers who are like, oh, it's just a video game. Now, there's some tracks in the simulator that may have helped Dale Jr. give him that advantage, help him win, help him gain about a tenth or two of a second, which could be huge in racing. So, like, there's definitely people who are like, well, it's just a video game. I've been told that so many times. I think I heard Matt Benson call this a video game at one point, and I'm like, there's guys who are racing every week, like Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin's winning races. I know he has better equipment, but think about it. Denny Hamlin raced with Dale Jr. a lot in the 2000s and funny enough, how Denny Hamlin won so many races in sim, Hamlin was winning a lot of races in real life. Just the thing. Maybe if Matt Kenseth took this stuff serious, I'm not trying to like knock it. He hasn't had the best equipment. It's nasty. I highly suspect. But the thing here is, maybe sim racing could have been the thing that helped him perform a little bit better, make the season go a little bit better than it has for him.
Right. So with iRacing, like, have you ever had a bad experience with, like, because I'm pretty sure they got like a chat room or something like that where you can talk to other racers, but they talk shit to you? Has anybody ever talked shit to you?
You have to have a tough mind. When you do this stuff, online racing communities, online communities in general, if it's gaming, if it's simulation, they're brutal. So you have to have a tough mind. You have to be aggressive. to gain points, to win races. And with that aggression, you're going to make some people mad. And people were going to say things that are really, really nasty. I've said some things I shouldn't have said. I've told some people off. You know, it's a brutal business, but you have a tough mind. But yeah, it's brutal.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years when it comes to sim racing and NASCAR?
I think by 10 years from now, I think this is bold. I do think that I'm going to be a name that people recognize sim racing wise. I think so. Now, anything beyond that, we'll just leave it up to God.
Yeah, you know, it's all God's plan, right, man? You know, but before we end things, you know, I just want to say, man, I wish you the best luck, you know what I'm saying, to, you know, what you're doing and stuff like that. You know, I hope you become pro.
Well, hey, Nas, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, you can follow him at NASCAR Cup on Instagram, Twitter. You have a Twitter?
I do have a Twitter. I think it's Nazcar Racing.
Okay.
It's all in one word. So.
All right. Well, we'll have it up here on the screen for them to see it when we edit. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, guys. This is your girl, Shamira Rich.
Your boy, Deshaun Richardson.
At NASCAR Cup, aka Nas. And we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Thank you.